Be a Christian Radio begins in 3, 2, 1. Hello everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time you may be listening to this. Welcome back to Be a Christian Radio. It's been a while since we have conversation on this platform, on this podcast, and I'm sorry I've not been keeping up with you guys. We moved our studio. I have gotten a new apartment, and the old setup is not yet ready for podcast. But we needed to make this particular podcast because it is really, really important. Now, I know we have the Nephilim series hanging, and we're going to come back to the Nephilim series. I promise you that. The studio is almost complete. There are just few things that is left. Once it is completed, we will return back to the podcast as it used to be. Now, there is a much more pressing matter that we have to discuss. My friend John is with me in the studio, and we want to talk about something that has to do with your story and you. And this is important because it is an aspect of our life that we generally don't tend to take much attention to. And this has affected many of us in a long while. And some of you will understand what I'm saying as we continue, as we begin to progress with what we're saying here. And it is important and very, very important that you pay rapid attention, because this is going to affect you in one way or the other. Without further ado, let us begin properly. Hello, John. Good evening to you.
Good evening too.
Welcome back to Be a Christian.
It's always a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I know it is. And I have missed you quite a bit. And ever since the last discussion we had, I've not been chanced to speak on this platform. And I'm sorry I have not been inviting you. You know what has been happening now? We have been working on this new studio.
Yeah. And
so,
also being busy here and there and all that.
Yeah, so John, tell me, what do you think about what is this story? What is this story? What do you mean? Because you were the one that brought this idea to me, right?
Yeah.
And you were the one that told me that it is important that we talk about our stories. So, what is this story that you're talking about? Your story and you. What does it comprise of?
Actually, what we're talking about is your story and you. Mm-hmm. So, the whole concept about this is your story is everything about you. Yes. And, if you've not talked about your good and your bad past, then you've not actually talked about your story. Like I said, your story consists of your past, your present, and possibly your future. You get it? So when we talk about your story and you, we are just trying to create a concept here based on what we have observed over time. We live in a world whereby a lot of things happen.
Yes.
Doctors today, when you go to doctors, they just tell you this is what is wrong with you, this is what's wrong with you. But most time it's psychological issues that people are going through, which has come to damage their emotions. Let me say, for example, now, there are people that had a horrible past, which is now their story. There is something you cannot do. You cannot erase your story. Life has no second edition in correcting it. So that's why we are minded to be careful in writing every page. Mm-hmm. If you tear a page of a book, that book is no more complete. It is until when that book comes that page comes in that book becomes complete. So your life is not complete without your story. So what we are trying to talk about here is your story is very important. There are two things that are important here: your story and you. So what we're trying to bring up here is you should be careful of how you share your stories, because they have an aftermath. They have an implication later. So when we go into the topic, I will be giving more details about this.
Okay. So now that you did say that about your stories, and I believe that the story of man, as I've said earlier, the story of a person consists of comprise wholly of the persons, because it is the life you've lived that tells the story
Yeah.
about you. And there is this famous saying that says in Doctor Who, if you've seen the movie Doctor Who,
Yeah, I've
and I
watched it.
like that particular quote by, it was by, what was his name? It was the 11th Doctor. I think that was Matt Smith was the person's name. So in one of the episodes, he said that we are all story in the end.
Yes, we all have stories
Just
in the end.
make it a good one.
Mm.
We are all stories in the end. Yes, because there is. You remember the famous hymn that says, "Fading away like the
Like the
stars of the morning, losing their light
Like a glorious
in the
sun.
glorious dawn. Thus would we pass from the earth and its
And
toiling,
it's toiling
only be remembered
by what
by
we have done.
what we have done,"
Both
which is
good and
our
bad.
story. Or good, yeah, either good and bad.
You know,
You'll
that
be
is it.
remembered
You'll
for the
surely be
thing.
remembered for what you
Yes,
have done.
yes, yeah, and that's one thing that many people don't really put into consideration. All right, so it is a pure fact that every one of us, either you like it or not, you have a story.
Yes, you do have a story.
So tell me, John, there are a lot of people that don't understand this fact that the life they are living right now is going to be a story, either to their neighbors or to
Yes.
their friends or to their children in the future. I want you to enlighten me on that.
Thank you very much. Oh no, I'm always happy when I'm on this, when I come to your studio, because seeing your face again makes me happy. Now, based on what you said, we're talking about your story and you. Just like we said earlier, that every one of us have stories, but we have a discovery now, which is making us to talk about this topic. You see somebody growing lean, having some kind of depression, having some kind of emotional trauma, and the person will be taken to the hospital, treated, to look as if the person is okay. After a while, the person will come back home, and the same thing repeats itself over and over again. I get it. Now, if the past of a man haunts a man later, how much more when you now help in publicizing that person's past? You are going to cause a lot of damage. Are you getting it? So what I want to talk about here now is sharing your story. Sharing your story. You know, I said something when we were discussing earlier before the podcast, that a person's story consists of his past, present, and possibly the future, right? And your story, whether you like it or not, has implications. There are stories you share with people that, let me say, for example, maybe story of the good things that have happened to you and the experiences you've had. When you share such story with people, you tend to bring life into them. There are people that you go to hospital who are sick. You share your story with them that, I was once so sick, I couldn't be healed, I did a lot of things, but when I did this and did that, I got myself. You know, when you share this with people, they have hope in them and they can be recovered. But what we are trying to talk about here is there are some parts of you that stink. There are some horrible parts of your life that has happened. There are some things that have happened to you before that you have to be very, very careful in sharing them, because they tend to come back to haunt you. Now, things to know in sharing your story, because we're talking about sharing your story now. You need to know that human beings are mortals. It's not everything, because we are coming to the religious aspect of this. I'm just trying to talk on the normal ground now. You know, human beings are mortals. You cannot trust anybody. Even the Bible says, trust in the Lord. There's nowhere the Bible says you should trust in man. It says, woe unto him that puts his trust in what? In man. You know, in opening up our past, in telling people about our past, we need to be very careful, because you don't know who you are sharing your story with.
Yes.
There are people that, when they are sharing their story, they have a lot of excitement in them. They are sharing their story and people are clapping, and it is so sweet to them. And they feel that they are doing the greatest thing in life. They feel that the greatest thing, in fact, that they are doing themselves a good thing. After all the clapping and all the college they give them, after everything, they say, wow, your story is great. Your story did this and did that, But after a while, it is still those same human that we turn and use those story against them. That is why in sharing your story, you need to know the kind of people that you share your story with. I could remember there was something they said in a particular university of a girl who they said was diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. You got it. And this girl couldn't keep this thing to herself, see, you are there, you are listening to me now. You know you are somebody's best friend. And you know that the person has nobody to share something with except you. The person sees you as a demigod that he or she can share something with and have it in mind that this thing cannot go out. Sometimes when you share your story, you feel eased. You feel eased, especially those things that are haunting you. You feel eased. Now, this girl shared her story with her friend, told her friend what happened, that she was being diagnosed and she had HIV, And then, after a while, this girl and her friend, they had an issue. They had a quarrel. And before you know it, the friend just opened her mouth and said, is it not you that was diagnosed of HIV and AIDS? Before you know it, the thing became so serious. And the moment the girl had that thing, that a third party have had it, she felt heartbroken. And there's no way that a third party will hear something that it will not fly out. So the only thing she could do to ease herself that period, because, sometimes dying is as if dying is better than being under depression. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, she had to go and then commit suicide.
In fact, there is a saying that goes that says there are some faiths that are worse than death. In our own case now, just imagine whenever she's coming to the school, it is going to be obvious to everyone that, maybe this one don't carry HIV. And the funny thing is, there is, even in that school, there is going to be a lot of people that are suffering from the same disease.
Same thing.
Some may even have AIDS.
Yes, whom have been keeping up. Because HIV patients, they don't die anyhow. They still have some time.
They will live a long time.
Yes.
And they will die just like every other human being. They're just going to be on medication. But the point is, now there are some others that may have the same or even worse sickness in their body. Mm-hmm. But because of your own is the one that has been publicized. There is a saying in the ghetto man words. They said, all of us native.
Yeah.
That's why they catching the money with barao. You understand?
Yeah.
So it is the one that they brought to the light that becomes the talk of the town.
Yes.
And it is not everyone that can process this kind of public humiliation the same way.
Yes.
Now, there are some people that when you speak a certain thing about them, right? Like you told me one certain time that there are some people that they are very emotional.
Good,
right?
yes.
When you
very
speak
emotional.
a certain things about them, it hurts them, it torments them, and
Yes.
they will think about it. I've remembered a certain situation, right? My fiancée, she was talking to me the other time, and believe me, she is a very nice girl.
Yeah.
Right? And I thank God for her. And she was telling me something the other time of how our roommate maltreated her. And she was crying to me and telling me that they did horrible things, to be honest, and things I don't want to say. And I know the kind of person she is. She's very emotional, and she was so sad, and she was wishing. I told her, look, you don't do that because they did you evil. Does not mean you have to hate them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pay evil with evil.
Yeah.
Leave it for God. Eventually, God started fighting the battle. But the point is, there are people like that are very, very emotional, right? And they might pass through a certain things, and they decide to come and have confide in you, hoping that you can advise them.
Yeah.
And it is just going to be so bad that they hope you're going to give them advice and wisdom and counsel are the same person that is now going about sharing their story.
Yes.
And no, with that girl, blah. You understand? And we don't. We will get to the religious part, and this is very, very important, right? When we get to the religious part, we will talk deeper into it.
So, now looking at this now, what are the stories you are meant to share? I want to say something on this. Like I told you earlier, some people, when they are sharing their story, they have this excitement in them, forgetting that when they are done sharing that story, there are people who will say, so you are this kind of person. You don't. The Bible said the heart is so deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it? There are people
The heart of a man.
It might be the day of your inauguration, the day of your pressing forward, that story will be used against you.
Exactly.
Now, What are the kind of stories you share? Good. You know, I told you your story is true. If your story is not true, then check very well today. If you are listening to me, you don't have a story. Your story always consists of your bad and good life. There are people that talk as if all their life they've been living a good life. Don't mind them. They're just lying. So, what are the things you share? You are only permitted to share that good and encouraging part of your story, of your life. Why? I want to ask a question. What do you gain when you tell somebody, I used to be a thief, I used to kill, I used to do this, I used to do that? What do you gain when you tell somebody, I know myself, I used to be a harlot. In fact, I've slept with 90 men. I've slept with 98 men. What do you gain when you tell somebody that, you see me here? I was once a murderer. I kill people. Now, I'm not saying it is bad. The question is this, what do you gain at that period? Do you know that there's a way you can still talk to those people you want to be saved, and they'll be saved? You see, most times what we go through is just being ignorant and being careless in using our words. We are careless. Now, you are the person that tells somebody, I've killed 99 people before I came to Christ. Now, by the time you tell that person you have killed 99 people, now the question is this, the day somebody will die, maybe we are around your vicinity, or maybe somebody come to your house and mistakenly died, you were you not the one that killed 99? So maybe your mission is to kill 100, then they will tell you are the one that killed that person. Where are you going to start from? You have been caught by the words of your mouth. So you are allowed to share those good parts of your life, which can be an encouragement to others. You get what I'm saying? Maybe you are there now, you are a sister, you are in the midst of other girls, and then you want to encourage them. You told them, I suffered a lot. I was once a virgin. I lost my flower. I did this, I did that. You said all manner of things. Do you know that there are people there who are still keeping their flower? Some of them might want to go into adventure to see how it looks like, keep taking your flower. So there is a way you would have convinced them. They would have listened. You would have taught them one way or the other. Because many of us, we always feel that if you don't tell people your bad life, your bad story, they will not get saved. If Apostle Paul in the Bible did it, you heard what he said, I was formerly an injurious and this and that. Check how many people that actually shared their story. Those that shared their story had their reasons for sharing their story. It was not that same Apostle Paul. Some people say that. Now listen, sometimes we shouldn't just read the Bible. We should be careful. It was that same Apostle Paul that some men decided that they will not eat or drink until they do what? They kill Paul. Do you know that later Apostle? Oh my God. You see, reading the Bible, we have to be very careful. Jesus Christ did not say much about himself. Rather, he was just preaching the gospel and talking about God. These people that wrote the Bible, they are men. Now, it was this, the Apostle Paul was beheaded at the end. Now, I'm not saying this because I have any wrong motive about Apostle Paul. No. I'm just trying to create a point here that your good part of story, which can save people, which can make things easy for them and make life go well for them, you are good to go with such story. Share with them and make them live fine. But now bringing up your old and past stories, because the day they start haunting you back with it, you will wish that you had not shared it. So you need to take note of this I just shared now. In sharing your story, share those good parts that will encourage people and keep them forward. So I believe we're talking about religious part. I don't know if you have something to say there.
No. So with what you've said, and I need to quickly iterate something here, or add something, sorry for using the word iterate. Understand this, that there are times where you share bad experiences as well to people. And the reason why is when it has gotten to a case where it is called for. Let me give you an example, right? So there is a certain brother. I will just use the word brother, right? It's someone I know that was suffering from a particular ailment, like not ailment, a particular addiction, right? He's a Christian. He's been suffering from this addiction for a long time, and he has kept it to himself, but nothing has happened. So one day, he decided to step out to go and look for a solution. He met another brother of his that is trustworthy. And then he told this brother that, look, this is the problem I'm having. And the brother told him, okay, if you're going to listen to me, I have had the same thing before that you're going through. And there is a particular person that helped me out. Would you want to come and see this person? And they both agreed to meet this person. And this person started speaking to them, to this brother that was having these particular issues. And as he was speaking to this brother, he told the brother, look, what you're going through, I understand. I've been there before. And these are the things that happen. And the brother, through his own experience, was able to counsel the younger brother. And that was how he was able to get his deliverance. Now, there are, like I said, there are times you share your bad stories, but make sure it is only when it is called for. And
that is why,
luckily, we are entering into the religious aspects now. And this is why...
There is, based on what you said now, I'm sorry to cut you off. That is what is leading to the next point I have here, in the sense of, who do you share a story with? You know, there are people that are aged, but they are not matured.
Yes.
Are you getting it? Imagine you share a story with an elderly person, and tomorrow he gathers a set of people and begin to use your story as a preaching. The point 1 was what you told the person. The point 2 was the one you said. The point 3 was still the same thing. You know, who do you share a story with? There are people, like what you said, a trustworthy somebody. There are people who are trustworthy that you can move close to them and share your story with them. And some people, when you share a story with them, you can just share a story with them and be rest assured that they will not in any way harm you. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I caught the point you said, but I'm just trying to come up with it that the people you share a story with must be trustworthy people who are going to keep your story.
Yeah, it matters a lot. And speaking of the religious aspect, so we are having a serious problem in our modern Christianity right now. And this has to do with the young and upcoming ministers. All right. And many of these people, after they've gone on some sort of fastings and prayers, and they've been able to catch a glimpse of what the Holy Ghost actually want to use them for. Many of them will not calm down to go through pruning, so that they will be pruned by the Lord himself. And instead of them to wait on God, you know, because you are anointed, you have the gift to heal, to do any workings of any type of miracles, does not necessarily means you're already mature. And this is the aspect that many people don't understand. And we have similar cases of many people that are gifted, and there is a lot of people that are confined in them. And I could remember there was a certain case that happened in the former church I attended. So there was this brother that he was firing for God. He was gifted. And the Lord was using him. The Lord was using him to do a lot of things. So one day he had an encounter with the opposite sex, and he was brought down, and because of the guilt in his heart, that was his first time of having such kind of experience. He doesn't know what to do. So he turned to his fellow brother and said, "Brother, look at what I've done." The brother said, "No, go and see the pastor. This is too much for me to undo." And then he went to the pastor of the church, someone that is supposed to be the spiritual head of the church. And then he told the pastor and said, "Look, sir, I have done this, I have done that. I have committed a fornication with a woman." And the pastor said, "Okay, and it is good you tell us. What you're going to do is meet the assistant pastor, let them pray for you, and continue." And so it seems, it looks like everything is fine, right? And the brother continuing his work with God, and things continue to go fine for them. Until one day, when something happened, the brother left the church for a reason known to him, and a workers' meeting was called. And this pastor openly told the church and said, the reason why this brother has left this church is because he has committed fornication. Can you imagine? So when the brother eventually returned, because they never had a hope that he was going to come back, and the brother returned, now that the brother returned, in the eyes of everybody, the brother has left because he was a fornicator. And this same brother that at one point in time, a lot of people were looking up to, people no longer look up to this person again. Even though as of the second time he returned, God had come with him in a different dimension. But because of what this pastor has carelessly said in the congregation,
out of immaturity,
and now he ruined the image of the brother unconscious. And that is not the only person. That is not the only person he has done it with. There is a lot of rumors that goes on in the church, because eventually one or two things happened with the pastor, which I don't want to go into details. It was later revealed by some elders in the church that these pastors, anytime you share information with him and you think it is private, he comes on the pulpit and uses your information and then speak it to the whole general church. Can you imagine that?
It became a habit.
And that is bad for you as a man of God, where you cannot hold your tongue.
Not curtail your tongue.
You can't bridle your mouth and say, okay, someone confided in me. It is now important. Imagine if it was Jesus that was the head of the church, and then you went and tell him that, Lord, look at what I have done. I am sorry, please. And then he forgives you. And then later comes to the service and say, one of my son has gone. No, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't. The Bible said that when you have risen, remember your brethren. Don't condemn them. Remember to bring them along with you when you are strengthened. Strengthen your fellow brethren as well, but not in these days. And also, there are churches today. It's very funny. Even in big mega churches today, some of these mega churches, they do the exact same thing, right? You see the pastors opening the mouth and saying things that you're not supposed to say,
which are people's story.
Stories that are meant to be private.
These things shouldn't even be said outside.
And this is one thing I am really having problem with in this our modern church.
Yes, it's dominant everywhere.
Now I could remember, right?
Yeah.
I could remember a certain story that it's been long, a vigilante that was guiding a particular city.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a charm, right? So this was a real story, by the way. He had a charm that he puts in the streets. So he was the only vigilante. He guards so many streets at the same time. So it's not a city, it's a street. You know, if you live in Africa before, we have streets. So he's the only one. In normal circumstances, there used to be multiple vigilantes that guards multiple different streets. But on this particular scenario, it is just one vigilante that is guiding multiple streets. And everyone trusts this man for one reason. They trust the man has a strong juju. And truly he does, because the moment he was about to start his vigilante, there is something he puts in the middle, in the entrance of each of the streets, right? Once it is 12 o'clock, you can't enter that street. The moment you get to the front of the street, there will be a resisting force that will not allow you to enter into the street. So it was very popular. It was popularly known. If you are inside, you can't come out. If you're outside, you can't go inside. And this man received a lot of attention until one day, he had a close friend, a very, very good friend. And then no one knew the secret. He was the only one that knows the secret. So the man feared that, what if one day I died during this job and then I accidentally lock these people in and they can't come out? Right? When he puts the charm in the night, he comes back in the morning to remove the charm. So he told the friend and said, look, this is the key to remove this charm from the door so that people can come outside. In case anything happens to me, there will still be one person that knows about this. So that day, he told the friend. Few days later, not few days, about weeks later. So the friend was at the beer parlor and he was having drinks. And he drank to the point he became drunk. And then he spilled the secret. And not knowing that they were hardened criminals in that same bar that was listening, they picked the word, and then when he returned home, the hardened criminals came. They on their way, they saw the vigilante, they shot him to death. They undid the juju and robbed the whole streets. And this was a story that was told in secrecy to his friend, and the friend betrayed him by not keeping his mouth shut. And we have cases of so many people that has been exploited because of the story that they confined in people and say, oh, look at what has happened to me, and please do not tell anyone. I'm so sorry. And it is funny that within Christianity today, there are many Many so-called leaders that has shamefully disgraced so many people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it is. You see, this matter we are discussing is a very crucial one. It's a very crucial one. Because behind the scenes, we've not come to get the total. I told you that a lot of people, because of this issue, have passed on. If you carefully observe, a lot of people have died because of these slight issues. Just like, we are talking about a religious sector now. I could remember when I was coming up with my youth, we do pray together. An elderly woman walked up to me and told me something. He said, John, please, can you pray for my son? I'm telling you this because I know you will keep your mouth shut and pray. She now says, she says, see your pastor that you're seeing there. Everything I share with him, you always come onto the altar and share it. The moment I heard that, I was like, wow. I said, no, this shouldn't be coming from the pastor of a church. You see? Now, you remember the story I shared with you about Isabella?
Yes.
A girl that gave her life to Christ, got born again, and began to enjoy the fellowship in Jesus. She woke up to her pastor one of the days because she felt she had this guilt in her. And then she began to talk to her pastor about her past life and everything. The pastor said, no problem, you are not a new creature, you can go. Not knowing the pastor is an immature person. One of the days after the service, you know how we normally do in churches, after service, we can just sit down and be discussing. One of the days, a brother was discussing with the lady, and then the pastor sent someone to call the brother. When the brother came, the pastor was like, hey, you, do you know what you are doing? Do you know who you are talking to? Do you know that lady? Do you know everything about that? Do you know her in depth? You just sat down discussing with somebody you don't know, and we were having some Christian discussion. When the pastor finished with the guy, when the guy came, come on, imagine what the guy did. The guy clapped his hand and picked his Bible and said, Sister Baba, you please, I'm still young, I don't want to die now. You know? The sister, that was the first shock the sister received in her heart. A very serious stabbing. Secondly was when a brother came out from abroad. We know this girl has been into harlot business, she's been doing abortion, but now she has come to Christ to stay. But she shared her story because she was feeling some guilt, which if I were there, I would have told her it's just guilt from the devil. That devil is one bringing this thing. You need to pray and give thanks to God. Those things will go. Now, the brother saw this sister. You know God is merciful. The brother wanted to marry this sister. He said, the brother woke up to Sabella and told Sabella, I said, I want to marry you. Sabella was like, are you sure? Is God leading you? Are you sure you want to marry me? This is who I was before. This and that. Before you know it, this brother went to the pastor and said, Pastor, I want to marry this sister. Pastor was like, is God leading you? Are you sure? I know what I'm telling you. Are you sure that? Because I know you are well to do. Are you sure you can? At a point, the brother was like, this one that this pastor is giving me pointers. I'm seeing a red light. What's going on? Do you know that after a while, the brother left the sister. The sister was now she began to be furious, like, what's going on? This brother told me he wants to marry me. Now look he has gone back abroad. He didn't even carry me. What's going on? The last one that was painful was everything the lady rehearsed with the pastor rehearsed it with the wife at home. And all these religious settings. The wife called all the brothers. She wanted to save them. She's Superman now. She called all the brothers and began to tell them, be careful with all these sisters, especially these ones that are coming new. And you saw that now that day, the sister was going to the church to pray because of the signs she had started seeing. Do you know that she was going to the church? In stepping into the church, she was careful. She heard the pastor's wife talking. See, especially those ones that just came new now. We are not sure of them. We don't know where they come. The moment she heard that, she knew directly that it was a story. She ran back home.
Story she had confided with the pastor.
When she ran back home, she said, God, this is not what you told me. You said I should come. You will give me rest. Lord, I've told you everything. Before you know it, she decided to end it. And then took a rope, put on the fan. Our two friends that were led to come and check on her, by the time they came, they saw a leg in the air. What's this? The moment they got in, Isabella have already hung herself. Now, this take me to, there are people that have a very soft heart. Not everybody, you might be there now, you might be saying, why would she kill herself? Listen to me. We all don't have the same kind of mind. There are people that they will give 12 strokes now. They won't even feel it. But let them give you only one hot one before you start crying. It is a state of the mind. You cannot compare the state of our mind. Our state of mind is different. That is why if you have a kind of past that you know that even when you remember it, it pains you. it makes you feel like, wow, what's this? Why not take it to God? Pray to God, and then keep believing God that God is going to remove it from you. So based on what you said, that is why I came up with this. We should be very, very careful also.
And that is a very, very powerful point. And I do hope that all the listeners out there, I know you have one story or the other, and I would want you to understand something, that as it is in this life, right, everything has its origin and point. So when you hear people talk about you, talk things that are private about you outside that you didn't tell them, just know that the person that you confide in the most has betrayed you. And it's sad how these kinds of betrayal goes a lot in these our settings, even in the Christendom, and as crazy as that is. So John, what advice, right, do you have for the leaders? What advice do you have for mentors? Because to be honest with you, many of us, I could remember then when we were together, when we were still growing in faith. We are still growing in faith, by the way, but I'm talking about the earlier time of our journey. I noticed how some of the sisters is always flocking around one of our particular brother, and always sharing things and secret information with him. And I thank God for him. So he was a person that keeps, if you tell him anything, he will keep it. He won't tell it to anyone. As much as I have known of him, right? And this is a very powerful testimony to speak of someone that, oh, you see that brother? If you tell him anything, it dies with him. You will not hear it from someone else. And that is a very, very, very strong testimony, right? And I just pray that God will continue to strengthen him. He's a good brother indeed. So, John, what do you have? What advice do you have for leaders or mentors that people are confiding information with? And what advice do you have for people like that?
You know, at this point, some people must have been injured in their hearts. They must have been wounded, you know. And those that have been wounded and you are listening to me, before I talk about the advice I have for mentors and leaders, those of you that are there and you have been wounded one way or the other, there is something I want you to know. You cannot continue thinking about what somebody said about you and then you kept being sad every day. Or when you see them, the moment you see them, you remember everything afresh again. No. You can't continue that way. You have to come out from that shell. Come out from that shell and decide to live a new life. Forget about what they've told you or what they've said about you. This time you've now realized your mistake. What you need to do now is to keep on with life. And for the mentors and the leaders and pastors of different category, I have some piece of word for you. Jesus Christ is no more here on earth. We have the Holy Spirit, which you cannot see with your eyes, but if you are privileged to see him, good. Now, we are ambassadors of Christ here on earth. And the flocks of God, most times, they come to us to share things with us. They come to us to kind of air out their mistakes and everything to us. Are you getting it? Why must it be that you that they confide in is now the person that will begin to share their stories with others? You need to be very careful because there is going to be a strict judgment on this issue. Those of you that call yourself pastors out there, and the moment you hear something, you begin to write a topic on it. Imagine, although some of you have been misunderstood, the word of God is two-edged. Yes, I know. Imagine that somebody shared a story with you, a story of his or her past, and then it is the day you heard it, then the next week it is the message you are preaching in the church. Does it mean that God's archive has been closed? That God does not have story again to tell? God does not have a message for you again? There are people that are always waiting to hear one bad thing or the other about somebody so that they can start a topic, they will preach on that. Now, hello, my fellow leaders and mentors. Please, let us begin to work on ourselves. Let us begin to pray and talk to the Lord and begin to seek for his grace in leading people, because those things, some of you have caused a lot of damage, a whole lot of damage, that if you will repair it will cost you a lot of years to repair them. And these damages that you have caused, when do you think you will finish correcting them? So now, it is high time you begin to talk to yourself. I told you I once had this habit in me, this trait. When you share something with me, not that I will actually go and share it with people, I will use it against you later. You know? I thank God for the girls I met some years back. They were the one that opened my eyes to this trait I'm having. And from there, I began to look at it. I said, wow, what I'm doing is not actually good. I need to change from this kind of life I'm living. A life of maybe somebody tell you, brother, I stole money yesterday. And then, not that I will go and spread it to everybody. I will now go and meet people and say, that was how you stole money. You will not hear this. You will not look at it. I said, this thing I'm doing is not good. I think I have to change from it. So if you're a leader, you should know that you are Christ's representative. Be very, very careful. A lot of people might misinterpret this message and said, yes, this and that. Apostle Paul, you might mention some people in the Bible that share their story. But listen, if you read carefully, you see that some people that share their story, look at Samson. He told you, man, I'm a Nazarite. No razor have ever come on my head. We saw the end of it. His eyes were amputated for it. We saw Apostle Paul, that we know that he was a rugged man. But he was boldly saying it, that is an injurious. He has done a lot of things. And some men made up their mind and said, this one, we will not eat or drink until we kill him. I don't know. There were times that Apostle Paul was let down through the net because of these threats that were around. So my fellow leaders, the word you had today is okay, is enough for you to begin to, and if there's need for you to call back those you felt you have offended or you have wronged, because there are still many people today that the moment they see you, that message you preached that day begins to flow back in their mind.
Exactly.
So when is God going to handle? Now look at it now. For years your members are still just few. Not that it's bad. For years now, because God cannot allow certain people to come to you so that you will not go and destroy
so that you will not
their
destroy
life.
them. Yeah.
Because their stories are so crucial that should not be shared with anybody. So that is a few advice I have.
That is really important, because I remembered one certain time where we had a work in our evangelical life.
Yeah.
We went out to, I think you remember this, we went out to do evangelism. And someone, I think I was the one myself that posted it on the internet. And our pastor saw us in the streets preaching and then came to the podium.
Oh,
and
I remember this.
lashed us in the face of the whole church. The shame was so much that led to many of the vibrant youth to start going back.
You still had this record in mind. I can remember this is about 7 years ago.
7 is
or
more than 10 years.
Wow, I just remember this now. And some sisters cried. Some of them, it affected their faith.
It affected, and many of them has not even.
I could remember one of the sisters, the mother was crying. He said, "Who sent you message?" As if what the daughter went to do was evil.
And believe me, these ladies didn't do anything. They didn't commit sin. They went to preach the gospel. The pastor came and lashed them and publicly humiliated them for preaching the gospel in the church, outside of the church. And the problem is this, right? So in the end, he was raising a church that is filled with yes man kind of people. Whatever our pastor says goes.
He's on point.
And none of them are interested in this spiritual work. And even the few that has desired, the few youths, by the way, that desired not to have boyfriend, not to have any ungodly life, that desired to sell their life to Christ, you that you're supposed to be their shepherd, you are the one that is condemning them to death, sentencing them. And imagine that thing, it affected even myself, it affected me in some certain area. And that was how the whole group and the whole thing just went to hell straight because of the condemnation of one man of God. Eventually, it went down into a very, very deep rabbit hole that sexual immorality began to happen. But none of this would have happened.
Yes,
if the man had not spoken terrible of these people.
And I was shocked that morning because I was also there. I cried that day. I prayed. I was just shocked. I just saw the man of God came up Some people here went to preach,
Yes.
Why must the mouth not be bridled and curtailed?
I could remember they brought me and they told me that I want to destroy the church.
Divide the church.
They said I want to destroy the church. Can you imagine that, John? That pain, it's pained me a lot. I didn't hold it as grudges, and I don't know how God did it. I never took it as grudge, but I was just pained.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
What about couples? Maybe before they got married, the lady had to tell the man this. Because I could remember a time I told a particular young girl. I said, don't share. If a man loves you and wants to marry you, be careful what you begin to share with that man. If tomorrow you got married, imagine a man is asking you, are you still a virgin? And when you want to marry you, he's asking if you are still a virgin. Are you getting it? Good. If it is no, it is no. But you now start telling the man everything about you. If he deliberately marries you, if he finally marries you and puts you in the house, bro, you are gone. The day
you people have any issues, it's going to bring that same case back.
You are a goner.
And this has to do. I believe if you're a woman, and you come to a point in your life that you're about to marry, and this is where many times I always tell people, don't let love cover your brain. So use your mind to think. Understand the kind of person you want to commit your life with, and make sure that this person is spiritually matured.
Good.
Right, because there are some certain information you don't share. It is not because you are trying to you are trying to be secretive. No, it is because you are saving the person from damnation. Yeah, because as time goes on, when you people move in together, you can share anything that happened within you people, right? Even if you want to tell them about your past, make sure you don't tell them the past that will damage their perception about you. You understand? And this is why even I was having a discussion with my fiancée the other time, and she was telling me about my ex. Don't tell me about that. Keep it to yourself. Don't do that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
You know what? To be honest with you, to some extent, I'm spiritually matured. No matter how matured you are, there are certain things you will hear, it will still play in your
jealousy. This jealousy is inside of you. You're not careful, you begin to
and that is the thing. I'm not even, it's a hex. They are not having any discussion before. But the moment she starts telling you things like that, your mind will start recreating a virtual environment of what really happened. In fact, your mind will start playing tricks on you.
Wow.
So it is better, even you as a man, there are certain things
you shouldn't
don't listen to it. So that bros, I want to tell you something, and you know that your mouth, you have onua, big mouth. You don't know how to keep your mouth to yourself. Don't listen. Just, sister, I know you want
mouth
to,
of the
but
word.
Please, I'm not in the. It is better you tell the person that, look, it's not that I don't want to hear, but I'm not in the right. If I hear, my mouth is very big. Please don't let me go.
Mouth is messenger.
So it is far much more important that you be straightforward with people and tell them that, look, I know what you want to say is good, but I can't listen.
Be blunt with them. It will save you.
Yeah, it is just going to be. It's going to save both you, save the person, and what you advise the person is tell the person that, look, whatever thing you're going through, if it is something that you know that, okay, it is a matter that you have to listen to so that you can settle, maybe there's a quarrel or something. No, but when person wants to tell you about something very sensitive about their past or things that they've done before, please,
if you know you are this type that cannot handle it,
to be honest, story is sweet. I'm a boy, very very sweet. But if you are not curtailed and disciplined, you are going to destroy a person's future unconsciously to you. And that is why I will always advise everyone that is listening to me right now to please mind the kind of story you listen to, and mind the kind of story you tell people. There are certain things I don't tell people about myself. There are some I will tell you vividly and say, look, I did this, yes, it's in my past, I did it. The reason why I'm sharing it with you is not something you can use against me, because I've already told you. But there are certain things I don't share with people.
Yes, for reasons.
Most especially encounters I have with other people, or private interaction I have with other people. I don't tell it to others, because I don't know where you will meet the person tomorrow, or who you would tell that same thing that would tell the person, and then it will destroy.
Why not just be quiet?
Exactly, just keep quiet. The Bible says that a wise man. How does that verse say that?
He that will see good days and-
in multitude of word, sin is not found wanting. When you always this one talk, blah, blah, blah. You go to this one, you are vomiting. Go to this place,
Every
you're
story you hear,
vomiting
you
words.
share.
Everything you want to talk about, you will not know when you start lying and when you start saying things that you're not supposed to say. And these are the things that God don't like. Backbiting is a very terrible thing. Because
also
when
the same
he
thing,
starts telling this story, backbiting will follow, lying will follow. Before you know, so
most of us actually, while I just thank God for the Holy Spirit. As we're discussing now, I felt in my heart. You see, most of us still need to pray and repent from some things.
true.
At one point, that like what I said, at one point we all have stories. Some of us are guilty of this thing we are saying now. Keep on, or maybe you just finish discussing with somebody and the next thing you pick a phone, place a call.
You hear what this brother say?
We
This
are not
brother
saying
blah,
that
this
you
brother
should
blah, blah.
not share stories. Who do you share your story with? And what kind of story do you share? This is the whole concept here. I'm telling you, there are men that told their wife, please pack your bag and leave my house because they shared something with that
them.
man. Or, now look at it again. Look at another
They shared
application.
it with someone else, and someone else
Let me give you this fiction.
spoke
now.
it to the husband.
Let me give you this fiction. There's this guy. Even there's a movie you can go and watch. The name of the movie is Stalker. Stalker. When you stalk somebody, keep following them. This lady and this guy, they are happily married, but the girl did abortion before they married. Did abortion with when she was the guy. They were in the home. Now listen to me very carefully. Before you know it, the girl shared later when the thing was becoming much. The mother was there. She could have gone to share with the mother, the father, or share with but the guy was not aware of anything. Before you know it, this girl shared the story with this guy. The guy refused to accept any plea. He refused. He said he's not going to accept, and the marriage broke. The girl had to go and start all over again. Now I want to ask, if she married again, she'll tell the other husband too, right? She won't dare it. Now the thing there is this. I'm not saying people should not share certain stories. There are things you share. I was about giving you a fiction. Imagine a girl that got married. After getting married, told your husband, look at all the thing I did. I slept with almost 14 men before I met you. But finally, thank God, I've now, you see, after sharing, the guy was like,
Even no matter how Holy Ghosted the guy is, the scenario of 14 men sleeping with you, we keep bringing in his brain.
The guy is a Christian actually. He had it.
It doesn't matter if you're a Christian.
He said,
John.
wow, thank God for you. Do you know that after a while, see, we should be careful. After a while in the marriage, as time goes on, the things began to play. Any little issue that happened, the guy will be feeling irritated. Excuse me, please. At night, they touch themselves, but this time there were restrictions and some things began to stop. Do you know that at a point, this relationship got to a point whereby this guy ended up sleeping with the same 14 girls that the girl slept with. Why? Let me do my own so that we will be, so that it will not look. Why? You shared it. Some people say, but what if I don't share it? It got to know. Now, when it gets to know, you will explain yourself better. Are you getting it?
Exactly.
You saw me, you love me, that was why you married me. You too, you had past, I had my own past too. Are you getting it? So these things are very, very crucial that we shouldn't joke with. Are you getting it? So at least that is why I gave that advice.
Now there are sometimes on the internet, and because there are people that are not Christians that do listen to this podcast as well, and I could remember there was a post I saw on the internet that says, bro, it was all this guy got chat. You know what the guy got chat is?
Yeah.
Okay, so a guy got chat post and said, or Giga chat post that says, you should always ask of our past so that you know where you are going. The honest truth is, except in Africa and some part of Asia, not even some part of, no, yes, some part of Asia, like places like
India or something?
No, like no. Let me just, the one I know of is like Africa, right? And some part of Asia, where the women are still they still keep to themselves, and the UAE, like the Arab Emirates, where the women they always keep to themselves until the day they were married. If you try to marry a Westerner and you want to know her past, no matter how much you love the girl, if you just hear a quarter of her past, the love will die. The love will die. To be honest with you. Because if you begin to hear the number of men that are slept with most of these people, they even speak. I watch videos of how these girls come on the internet and say, oh, your body count, and they say, they've slept with 20 men. I'm like, yay. And there will be one lucky idiot that will just go, you are the butter in my bread, you are the this and that. And then you marry, the person will marry the girl. Now, I'm not condemning. Understand? Yeah. You marry the girl and put at home. Not bad. Not bad at all. But one day, you say, baby, you've not told me about you. You want to die. Once she tell you a quarter of her past, you will never love that girl again. I used to hear people that, their love is when you know her past, but you still choose to love her. My brother, you accept your heart is made out of iron.
Most of these things are just quotes per se.
But there are a lot of.
But when we come into reality, you see faces.
You cannot.
You see a lot of things.
There was this one girl I was dating once at a certain time, right? And I will not talk about her name. I will not even give you guys a hint. I will just tell you that it's a particular person I dated.
Yeah, and this thing you are doing is just what we're talking about. Good. This is very good.
So come and beat me. I will not tell you her name. Anyway, so I was dating this girl. She was a virgin, right? And this girl was so beautiful. Very hard. I've never seen a girl that is as hardworking as that girl, except my fiance. My fiance too is crazy hardworking. So one certain time, the girl she walked up with me and told me to my face that she called me by my name and said, I'm grown enough, I'm old enough, I want you to disvirgin me. I said, I can't do that, I'm a Christian. This girl pressured me, not for days, not for weeks, for months, to disvirgin. I refused. And one day, she called me and told me she wants to tell me something. That I said, okay, what is it? She said that she's sorry. I said, what do you mean? She said, I've been disvirgined by someone else. Boy, I love this girl with my life.
Bro.
But I tell you, I tried to love her, but I could not.
Because you had
the scenario of the girl was still playing him. Every time I looked at her like this and we were talking, and maybe she just smiled or something, I would just remember the guy breaking her virginity. It haunted me. It haunted me for a long time. And I really like the girl, but she's married now, by the way. She has, I don't know if she has, I think she has more than one kid. Very hardworking, very beautiful girl. Eventually, that was how the relationship ended. And this girl wanted us to marry. She was, she has the quality of a wife in her. But that's I could not just, I find it hard to love her again. Not because the thing is, I don't hate her, but the torment of what, imagine it was a nightmare every time. the way the guy was just devouring the girl, it will just be playing in my mind. I can't save myself.
All this has happened because she shared with you.
It's because she shared with me. Anyway, I was going to find out later if I marry her. But there are, even if I marry her, I will not find out, because if it is one time thing, it will close back again. But that's another story for another time. So yeah,
the question I have for you is this: must you share your bad past to people?
Like I've said before, and I'm going to stand by. I'm still going to stand by that. It depends on the situation. There are times where your bad story will actually rescue someone. Imagine, this is going to be the last analogy, and then we come to the end of the podcast. Yeah. Okay, so there was this guy that was a drug addict, right? It was a story. It was one that shared the story by himself. He had become born again, but he was still putting heroin in his body. It was just way too much. There was one, the whole church were just, there are times he would come to the church completely high. He would be crying and say, God, deliver me. The whole church was just looking at him like, this one is a gunner. But he never gave up on God, and God never gave up on him until one day he was coming to church with heroin in his hand like this. The needle has been injected. He was crying and asking God, why can't you save me? And then God saved him. And of course, any person that was, this one was a drug addict, this one was this one was that. No. But when he shared the story, he gave hope to people that were addicted to drugs and said there is a way out, and that is God. God will save you. Jesus. Just be persistent, be consistent with him. He will save you.
Is good.
And this is how it is. There are people that has gone into that got pregnant at a very young age, and that through their carelessness, and they want to commit abortion, and someone meets them and says, "Sister, look, I've been in your situation before. Don't do it. Don't kill God's child because of your mistake." This is where you share bad story to save people's life. Because if you don't, and she went to go,
you share it to the right people.
She went ahead and do that and died. She's not just only she's going to die in her sin, because you could have saved her. She would die and go to hell because she wants to kill God baby and kill herself in the process. And now God will hold you by the neck because you could have saved her by your word, but you chose to keep your secrets to yourself. This is where you know the kind of story. That is why it is important that you have wisdom and you know the kind of story you share with people. It's not everything that when I was born again, before I became no. There are things you just keep to yourself.
Or when you come into Christ, your consequent issues.
Yes.
Be very careful.
So with that being said, I do hope you guys understand where we are going, and this is why we always want to make sure we take our time to explain certain things to you. This podcast is not all about it's not about anything that has to do with the world system. It is about salvation. It is about things that God wants us to do. And this is why it is important for each and every one of us to take heed to the things we share with people. So with that being said, we're going to bring this podcast to an end. It's been a pleasure having to share with you guys the few things that I know. And I'm glad that the Lord counted us worthy to be able to share this with you. And that's basically it. With that being said, have a good night rest, everyone. Peace.